Hi. Is it working? I'm back. Uh, Something strange just went on, and it's still a little bit janky. Better than it was, hopefully. I'm trying to throw my internet. I guess my internet has been janky. Either that, or I need to free up space on my laptop. One of the two. Anyway, I apologise if if not the internet, if the video seems a bit funny. I'm hoping the sound's okay. But anyway, I will not rant like I did a minute ago, because you don't need to hear that. But today we're going to read quite a complex text. Well, I suppose the last couple have been complex, the Gnostic ones. This is kind of Gnostic. It's not quite duality of Gnosticism, it's kind of bringing them together in a way. Saying how we need both heaven and hell and things. This is the marriage of heaven and hell. So kind of bringing them together, yeah, rather than duality of Gnosticism. So William Blake, 1790 to 1793, he wrote this. Did all the artwork for it as well. Him and his wife. Some of the artwork is quite weird, but kind of cool. Like the title screen, that was the actual cover to the book. That is luckily in the public domain, much like this version is, which I'm reading from the great Project Gutenberg, where all the Guten stuff is, where all the good books are. So I'm just going to read this because I'm a little bit later than I would hope, because technical issues is what we shall say. I don't know how long this is going to take. I can never judge these. Sometimes I think they're going to be really long and they take like 10 minutes. Sometimes I think they're going to be really short and they take like 3 hours. But this says it's 12 pages. So we shall see. Anyway, on with it. Grab yourself a drink. I'm being sensible today and I've got water. Sit back and enjoy the tale. The Marriage of Heaven and Hell by William Blake. The argument. Rintrah roars and shakes his fires in the burdened air. Hungry clouds swag on the deep, once meek and in perilous path. The just man kept his course along the vale of death. Roses are planted where thorns grow, and on the barren heath sing the honeybees. Then the perilous path was planted, and a river and a spring on every cliff and tomb. And on the bleached bones red clay brought forth, till the villain left the paths of ease, to walk in the perilous paths and drive the just man into barren climes. Now the sneaking serpent walks in mild humility, and the just man rages in the wilds where lions roam. Rintrah roars and shakes his fires in the burdened air. Hungry clouds swag on the deep. As a new heaven is begun, and it is now 33 years since its advent, the eternal hell revives. And lo, Swedenborg is the angel sitting at the tomb. He writes are the linen cloths folded up. Now is the dominion of Edom, and the return of Adam into paradise. Without contraries is no progression, attraction and repulsion, reason and energy, love and hate are necessary to human existence. From these contraries spring what the religious call good and evil. Good is the passive that obeys reason. Evil is the active springing from energy. Good is heaven. Evil is hell. The voice of the devil. Got a crick in my neck, sorry. Don't know if you can hear my crunchy shoulder. Probably not. Oh well. Anyway, enough of that. The voice of the devil. All Bibles are sacred codes all Bibles, all sacred codes have been the cause of the following errors. 1. That man has two real existing principles, vis-a-vis a body and a soul. 2. That energy, called evil, is alone from the body, and that reason, called good is alone from the soul. 3. That God will torment man in eternity for following his energies. But the following contraries to these are true. Man has no body. 1. Man has no body distinct from his soul, for that called body is a portion of soul discerned by the five senses, the chief inlets of soul in this age. 2. Energy is the only life and is from the body, and reason is bound or outward circumference of energy. 3. Energy is eternal delight. Those who restrain desire do so because theirs is weak enough to be restrained, and the restrainer or reason usurps its place and governs the unwilling. Being restrained, it is by degrees becomes passive, till it is only the shadow of desire. The history of this is written in Paradise Lost, and the governor of reason is called Messiah. Milton. Sorry, that's from the previous introduction. This is heavily influenced by Milton's Paradise Lost and Dante's Divine Inferno. And there's loads of references to those. There's also Swedenborg in there, which we heard from earlier. So yes, it kind of builds upon the ideas found within those two texts. Now, where was I? And the original archangel, or possessor of the command of the heavenly host, is called the devil, or Satan, and his children are called sin and death. But in the book of Job, Milton's Messiah is called Satan. For this history has been adopted by both parties. It indeed appeared to reason as if desire was cast out, but the devil's account is that the Messiah fell and formed a heaven of what he stole from the abyss. This is shown in the Gospel, where he prays to the Father to send the comforter or desire that reason may have ideas to build on, the Jehovah of the Bible being no other than he who dwells in flaming fire. Know that after Christ's death he became Jehovah. But in Milton, the Father is destiny, the Son a ratio of the five senses, and the Holy Ghost vacuum. Note, the reason Milton wrote in fetters when he wrote of angels and God, and at liberty when of devils and hell, is because he was a true poet, and of the devil's party without knowing it. A memorable fancy. As I was walking among the fires of hell, delighted with the enjoyments of genius, which to angels looks like tormented insanity, I collected some of the proverbs, thinking that as the sayings used in a nation mark its character, so the proverbs of hell show the nature of infernal wisdom better than any description of buildings or garments. When I came home on the abyss of the five senses, where a flat-sided steep frowns over the present world, I saw a mighty devil folded in black clouds, hovering on the sides of a rock. With corroding fires, he wrote the following sentence, now perceived by the minds of men, and read by them on earth. How do you know but every bird that cuts the airy way is an immense world of delight closed by your senses five? Proverbs of hell. In seed time learn, in harvest teach, in winter enjoy. Drive your cart and your plough over the bones of the dead. The road of excess leads to the palace of wisdom. Prudence is rich, ugly old maid courted by incapacity. He who desires but acts not breeds pestilence. The cut worm forgives the plough. Dip him in the river who loves water. A fool sees not the same tree that a wise man sees. He whose face gives no light shall never become a star. Eternity is in love with the productions of time. The busy bee has no time for sorrow. The hours of folly are measured by the clock. but of wisdom no clock can measure. All wholesome food is caught without a net or a trap. Bring out number, weight, and measure in a year of dearth. No bird soars too high if he soars with his own wings. A dead body revenges, not injuries. The most sublime act is to set another before you. If the fool would persist in his folly, he would become wise. Folly is the cloak of knavery. Shame is pride's cloak. Prisons are built with stones of law, brothels with bricks of religion. The pride of the peacock is the glory of God. The lust of the goat is the bounty of God. The wrath of the lion is the wisdom of God. The nakedness of woman is the work of God. Excess of sorrow laughs. Excess of joy weeps. The roaring of lions, the howling of wolves, the raging of the stormy sea, and the destructive sword are portions of eternity too great for the eye of man. The fox condemns the trap, not himself. Joys impregnate, sorrows bring forth. Let man wear the fell of the lion, woman the fleece of the sheep. The bird a nest, the spider a web, man friendship. The selfish smiling fool and the sullen frowning fool shall be both thought wise that they may be a rod. What is now proved was once only imagined. The rat, the mouse, the fox, the rabbit, watch the roots. The lion, the tiger, the horse, the elephant, watch the fruits. What is now proved was once only imagined. Done that twice. The cistern contains, the fountain overflows. One thought fills immensity. Always be ready to speak your mind, and a base man will avoid you. Everything possible to be believed is an image of truth. The eagle never lost so much time as when he submitted to learn of the crow. The fox provides for himself, but God provides for the lion. Think in the morning, act in the noon, eat in the evening, sleep in the night. He who has suffered you to impose on him knows you. As the plough follows words, so God rewards prayers. The tigers of wrath are wiser than the horses of instruction. Expect poison from the standing water. You never know what is enough unless you know what is more than enough. Listen to the fools of reproach, which is a kingly title. The eyes of fire, the nostrils of air, the mouth of water, the beard of earth. The weak in courage is strong in cunning. The apple tree never asks the beech how he shall grow, nor the lion the horse how he shall take his prey. The thankful receiver bears a plentiful harvest. If others had not been foolish, we should have been so. The soul of sweet delight can never be defiled. When thou seest an eagle, thou seest a portion of genius. Lift up thy head. As the caterpillar chooses the fairest leaves to lay her eggs on, so the priest lays his curse on the fairest joys. To create a little flower is the labour of ages. Damn bracers, bless reflexes. The best wine is the oldest, the best water the newest. Prayers plough not, praise reap not, joys laugh not, sorrows weep not. The head sublime, the heart pathos, the genitals beauty, the hands and feet proportion. As the air to a bird or the sea to a fish, so is contempt to the contemptible. The crow wished everything was black, the owl that everything was white. Exuberance is beauty. If the lion was advised by the fox, he would be cunning. Improvement makes straight roads, but the crooked roads without improvement are roads of genius. Sooner murder an infant in its cradle than nurse unacted desires. Where man is not, nature is barren. Truth can never be told as to be understood and not to be believed. Enough or too much? The ancient poets animated all sensible objects with gods and geniuses, calling them by names and adorning them with properties of woods, rivers, mountains, lakes, cities, nations, and whatever their enlarged and numerous senses could perceive. And particularly they studied the genius of each city and country, placing it under its mental deity, till a system was formed which some took advantage of or enslaved the vulgar by attempting to realize or abstract the mental deities from their objects. Thus began priesthood, choosing forms of worship from poetic tales, and at length they pronounced that the gods had ordered such things. Thus, men forgot that all deities reside in the human breast. A memorable fancy. The prophets Isaiah and Ezekiel dined with me, and I asked them how they dared so roundly to assert that God spoke to them, and whether they did not think at the time that they would be misunderstood, and so be the cause of imposition. Isaiah answered, I saw no God, nor heard any, in a finite organical perception, but my senses discovered the infinite in everything. And as I was then pursued and persuaded and remained confirmed that the voice of honest indignation is the voice of God, I cared not for consequences, but wrote. Then I asked, does a firm persuasion that a thing is so make it so? He replied, all poets believe that it does, and in ages of imagination this firm persuasion removed mountains. But many are not capable of firm persuasion of anything. Then Ezekiel said, the philosophy of the East, taught by the first principles of human perception, some notions held one principle for the origin and some another. We of Israel taught that the poetic genius, as you now call it, was the first principle, and all others merely derivative, which was the cause of our despising the priests and philosophers of other countries, and prophesying that all gods would at last be proved to originate in ours, and to be the tributaries of poetic genius. It was this that our great poet King David desired so fervently and invokes so pathetically, saying by this he conquers enemies and governs kingdoms. And we so loved our God that we cursed in his name all the deities of surrounding nations, and asserted that they had rebelled. From these opinions the vulgar came to think that all nations would at last be subject to the Jews. This, said he, like all firm persuasions, is come to pass. For all nations believe the Jews' code, and worship the Jews' God, and what greater subjection can be? I heard this with some wonder, and must confess my own conviction. After dinner I asked Isaiah to favour the world with his lost works. He said none of equal value was lost. Ezekiel said the same of his. I also asked Isaiah what made him go naked and barefoot 3 years. He answered, the same that made our friend Diogenes the Grecian. I then asked Ezekiel why he ate dung and so long on his right side and left side. He answered, the desire of raising other men into perception of the infinite. This is the North American tribe's practice, and is he honest who resists his genius or conscience, only for the sake of present ease or gratification? The ancient tradition that the world will be consumed in the fire at the end of 6,000 years is true, as I've heard from hell. For the cherub with its flaming sword is hereby commanded to leave his guard at the tree of life, and when he does, the whole creation will be consumed with an appetite and appear infinite and holy, whereas it appears finite and corrupt. This will come to pass by an improvement of sensual enjoyment. But first, the notion that man has a body distinct from his soul is to be expunged. This I shall do by printing in the infernal method by corrosives, which in hell are salutary and medicinal, melting apparent surfaces away and displaying the infinite which was hid. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear to man as it is, infinite. For man has closed himself up till he sees all things through narrow chinks of his cavern. A memorable fancy. I was in a printing house in hell, and saw the method in which knowledge is transmitted from generation to generation. In the first chamber was a dragon man, clearing away the rubbish from a cave's mouth. Within a number of dragons were hollowing the cave. In the second chamber was a viper, folding round the rock and the cave, and the others adorning it with gold and silver and precious stones. In the third chamber was an eagle with wings and feathers of air. He caused the inside of the cave to be infinite. Around were numbers of eagle-like men, who built palaces in the immense cliffs. In the fourth chamber were lions of flaming fire raging around and melting the metals into living fluids. In the fifth chamber were unnamed forms, which cast the metals into the expanse. They were received by men who occupied the sixth chamber and took the forms of books and were arranged in libraries. The giants who formed this world into its sensual existence and now seem to live in it in chains are in truth the causes of its life and the sources of all activity. But the chains are the cunning of weak and tame minds, which have power to resist energy, according to the proverb, "The weak in courage is strong in cunning." Thus one portion of being is the prolific, the other the devouring. To the devourer it seems as if the procedure was in his chains. But it is not so. He only takes portions of existence and fancies that the whole. But the prolific would cease to be prolific unless the devourer as the sea received the excess of his delights. Some will say, "Is not God alone the prolific?" I answer, God only acts as in the God only acts and is in existing beings or men. These two classes of men are always upon earth, and they should be enemies. Whoever tries to reconcile them seeks to destroy existence. Religion is an endeavour to reconcile the two. Note, Jesus Christ did not wish to unite, but to separate them, as in the parable of sheep and goats, and, he says, "I came not to send peace, but a sword." Messiah, or Satan, or tempter, was formerly thought to be one of the antediluvians, who are our energies. Certainly tell this was written around the Enlightenment. Questioning things. A memorable fancy. An angel came to me and said, "O pitiable, foolish young man, O horrible, O dreadful state, consider the hot burning dungeon thou art preparing for thyself to all eternity, to which thou art going in such career." I said, "Perhaps you will be willing to show me my eternal lot, and we will contemplate together upon it, and see whether your lot or mine is most desirable." So he took me through a stable and through a church and down into the church vault, at the end of which was a mill. Through the mill we went and came to a cave. Down the winding cavern we groped our tedious way, till a void boundless as a nether sky appeared beneath us, and we held by the roots of the trees, and hung over this immensity. But I said, "If you please, we will commit ourselves to this void, and see whether Providence is here also. If you will not, I will." But he answered, "Do not presume, O young man, but we are here, but as we are but as we here remain, behold thy lot, which will soon appear when the darkness passes away." So I remained with him, sitting in the twisted root of an oak. He was suspended in a fungus, which hung with the head downward into the deep. By degrees we held the infinite abyss, fiery as the smoke of a burning day. Beneath us, as an immense distance, was the sun, black but shining. Round it were fiery tracks on which revolved vast spiders, crawling after their prey, which flew, or rather swum, in the infinite deep, in the most terrific shapes of animals sprung from corruption, and the air was full of them, and seemed composed of them. These are devils, and are called powers of the air. I now asked my companion, which was my eternal lot. He said, "Between the black and white spiders." But now, from between the black and white spiders, a cloud of fire burst and rolled through the deep, blackening all beneath, so that neither deep grew black as that the nether grew deep, grew black as a sea, and rolled with a terrible noise. Beneath us was nothing now to be seen but a black tempest, till looking east between the clouds and the waves, we saw a cataract of blood mixed with fire, and not many stones throw from us appeared and sunk again the scaly fold of a monstrous serpent. At last, to the east, distant about 3 degrees, appeared a fiery crest above the waves. Slowly it reared like a ridge of golden rocks, till we discovered 2 globes of crimson fire, from which the sea fled away in clouds of smoke. Now we saw it was the head of the Leviathan. His forehead was divided into streaks of green and purple, like those of a tiger's forehead. Soon we saw his mouth, and red gills hang just above the raging foam, tingling the black deeps with beams of blood, advancing towards us with the fury of a spiritual existence. My friend the angel climbed up from his station into the mill. I remained alone, and then this appearance was no more, but I found myself sitting on a pleasant bank beside a river, by moonlight, hearing a harper who sung to the harp, and his theme was, "The man who never alters his opinion is like standing water, and breeds reptiles of the mind." But I arose and sought for the mill, and there I found my angel, who, surprised, asked me how I escaped. I answered, "All that we saw was owing to your metaphysics. For when you ran away, I found myself on a bank by moonlight, hearing a harper. But now we have seen my eternal lot. Shall I show you yours?" He laughed at my proposal, but I by force suddenly caught him in my arms, and flew westerly through the night, till we were elevated above the earth's shadow. Then I flung myself with him directly into the body of the sun. Here I clothed myself in white, and taking in my hand Swedenborg's volumes, sunk from the glorious climb, and passed all the planets till we came to Saturn. Here I stayed to rest, and then leaped into the void between Saturn and the fixed stars. "Here," said I, "is your lot, in this space, if space it may be called." Soon we saw the stable and the church, and I took him to the altar and opened the Bible. And lo, it was a deep pit, into which I descended, driving the angel before me. Soon we saw 7 houses of brick. One we entered. In it were a number of monkeys, baboons, and all of that species, chained by the middle, grinning and snatching at one another, but withheld by a shortness of their chains. However, I saw that they sometimes grew numerous, and then the weak were caught by the strong and with a grinning aspect, first coupled with and then devoured by, plucking off first one limb and then another till the body was left a helpless trunk. This, after grinning and kissing it with seeming fondness, they devoured too. And here and there I saw one savourily picking the flesh off his own tail. As the stench terribly annoyed us both, we went into the mill, and I in my hand brought the skeleton of a body, which in the mill was Aristotle's Analytics. So the angel said, "Thy fantasy has imposed upon me, and thou oughtest be ashamed." I answered, "We impose on one another, and it is not lost time to converse with you whose works were only analytics. I have always found that angels have the vanity to speak of themselves as the only wise. This they do with a confident insolence sprouting from systematic reasoning. Thus, Swedenborg boasts that when he writes that what he writes is new, though it is only the contents or index of already published books. A man carried a monkey about for a show, and because he was a little wiser than the monkey, grew vain, and conceived himself as much wiser than 7 men. It is so with Swedenborg. He shows the folly of churches and exposes hypocrites, till he imagines that all are religious, and himself the single one on earth that ever broke a net. Now hear a plain fact. Swedenborg has not written one new truth. Now hear another. He has written all the old falsehoods. And now hear the reason. He conversed with angels who are all religious, and conversed not with the devils who all hate religion, for he was incapable through the conceited notions. Thus Swedenborg's writings are a recapitulation of all superficial opinions, and an analysis of the more sublime, but no further. Have now another plain fact. Any man of mechanical talents may, from the writings of Paracelsus or Jacob Behmen, produce 10,000 volumes of equal value with Swedenborg's, and from those of Dante or Shakespeare an infinite number. But when he has done this, let him not say that he knows better than his master, for he only holds a candle in sunshine. A memorable fancy. Once I saw a devil in the flame of fire, who arose before an angel that sat on a cloud, and the devil uttered these words: "The worship of God is honouring his gifts in other men, each according to his genius, and loving the greatest men best. Those who envy or calumniate great men hate God, for there is no other God." The angel, hearing this, became almost blue, but mastering himself he grew yellow, and at last white, pink, and smiling, and then replied, "Thou idolater, is not God one, and is he not visible in Jesus Christ? And has not Jesus Christ given his sanction to the law of 10 commandments? And are not all other men fools, sinners, and nothings?" The devil answered, "Bray a fool in a mortar with wheat, yet shall not his follow be beaten out of him. If Jesus Christ is the greatest man, you ought to love him in the greatest degree. Now hear how he has given his sanction to the law of 10 commandments. Did he not mock at the Sabbath, and so mock the Sabbath's God? Murder those who were murdered because of him? Turn away the law from the woman taken in adultery? Steal the labour of others to support him? Bear false witness when he admitted making a defence before Pilate? covet when he prayed for his disciples, and when he bid them shake off the dust of their feet against such as refused to lodge them? I tell you, no virtue can exist without breaking these 10 commandments. Jesus was all virtue and acted from impulse, not from rules. When he had spoken, I beheld the angel who stretched out his arms, embracing flame of fire, and he was consumed, and arose as Elijah. Note, this angel, who has now become a devil, is my particular friend. We often read the Bible together in an infernal or diabolical sense, which the world shall have if they behave well. One law for the lion and ox is oppression. A song of liberty. 1. The eternal female groaned, it was heard over all the earth. 2. Albion's coast is sick silent, the American meadows faint. 3. Shadows of prophecy shiver along by the lakes and the rivers and mutter across the ocean. France, rend down thy dungeon. 4. Golden Spain, burst the barriers of old Rome. 5. Cast thy keys, O Rome, into the deep, down falling, even to the eternity down falling. 6. And weep. 7. In her trembling hands she took the newborn terror howling. 8. On those infinite mountains of light now barred by the Atlantic Sea, the newborn fire stood before the starry king. 9. Flagged with grey-browed snows and thunderous visages, the jealous wings waved over the deep. 10. The spray hand burned aloft, unbuckled was the shield. Forth went the hot hand of jealousy among the flaming hair, and hurled the newborn wonder through the starry night. 11. The fire is falling. 12. Look up, O citizen of London, enlarge thy countenance. O Jew, leave counting gold, return to thy oil and wine. O African, black African, go winged, thought widened its forehead. 13. The fiery limbs, the flaming hair shot like the sinking sun into the western sea. 14. Waked from his eternal sleep, the hoary element roaring fled away. 15. Down rushed, beating his wings in vain, the jealous king, the grey-browed counsellors, thunderous warriors, curled veterans among helms and shields and chariots and horses, elephants, banners, castles, slings and rocks. 16. Falling, rushing, ruining, buried in the ruins on Urthona's dens. All night before the ruins, then their sullen flames faded, emerge round the gloomy king. 18. With thunder and fire leading his starry host through the waste wilderness, he promulgates the 10 Commandments, glancing his beamy eyelids over the deep in dark dismay. 19. Where the sun of fire in his eastern cloud, while the morning plumes her golden breast. 20. Spurning the clouds written with curses, stamps and stony law to dust, losing the eternal forces from the dens of night, crying, Empire is no more, and now the lion and wolf shall cease. Chorus. Let the priests of the raven of dawn, no longer in deadly black, with hoarse note curse the sons of joy, nor his accepted brethren whom, tyrant, he calls free, lay the bound or build the roof, nor pale religious lechery call that virginity that wishes, but acts not. For everything that lives is holy. And there we go. The marriage of heaven and hell. Hope you enjoyed that. Should probably get an editor one day to do these videos, or edit them myself. Well, that's not going to happen, is it? Because I'm lazy. If anybody knows anything about the podcast, which comes out as and when I can be bothered, yeah, I'm lazy. The next one will come out soon this week, I'm hoping, because it's going to be the Mabinogion. I can't remember which book. I think it's Gwydion, because that's got Merlin in it. We like Merlin. So yes, next week I'm not sure. Might look at some Eastern philosophy, Eastern texts next week. Don't know. There's a few things that I want to read, but I'm not sure what yet. What I'm going to do. Need to see about times and how big things are. So we'll see. But yeah, well, thank you all for listening. Links and everything will be in the show notes for where I got this from. It's Project Gutenberg, as I say. Great place. We love Project Gutenberg. And there's also sacredtext.org, I think it is, where there's loads of really cool stuff there as well. So go check those out. But yeah, thank you very much all. See you all later.